Welcome to the Soulish Podcast, and hey, episode 100. I made it to the triple digits. Woo! Thank you so much. On this 100th episode, it's really about you, the listeners, you, the Soulish tribe, the Soulish fam who have been with me from the beginning, who have just joined recently or are literally joining for this 100th episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with me as I share mine, and also guests come on and share their journeys, their experiences. It is just such an honor to have this platform to facilitate these conversations, to have these conversations between you and I. It's just been amazing. And so on this 100th episode, I really just want to celebrate the fact that we've had 100 episodes of amazing, amazing conversations, thought journeys, emotional journeys, energetic, spiritual journeys, and just really getting in and diving into the soul, the ish of the soul, the body, soul, spirit connection, just everything. And I want to thank all my guests who have come onto the podcast, who have shared from their hearts and shared their journeys, shared the work that they do in the world. It has just been such an honor and a privilege. I just don't even have the words for it. It's been so amazing. It's just been such an honor and a privilege to have each guest onto this podcast and to have these conversations. And so I just want to thank you as well. So to celebrate the 100th episode, I thought I would do a compilation of all the best nuggies, the little best nuggets of wisdom, of thought, of, inspiration, of anything really that's been an encouragement or an inspiration that has been like an aha moment on this podcast in the past 100 episodes. So here is a compilation of all the little nuggies. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it brings you back if you've listened to those episodes before. I hope that it inspires you and encourages you, because that's what I want to do in every single episode, including this one. So enjoy.
I always had a huge aversion to the message of like, if you don't believe this one way, God will torture you forever, or allow you to be tortured, whichever way they like to phrase it. And it was just like, I've watched my dad suffer from something that can't even be compared to what people describe as hell is going to be like. Yeah. And it was just like settled within me. There's no way a God with any degree of love or compassion could or would do that to someone. Like, surely there's a better plan of redemption God could come up with than that.
Yes, we are experiencing the thought, but that's not who we are. Like, becoming the observer of that is what's really important during this journey. And that's the lesson. Ultimately, that is the lesson that I'm learning.
And the reason why I said yes to this was because I felt valued, wanted, appreciated, and needed. And so I said yes to this because I needed to know that I could live up to that and that I was worthy of this opportunity. And so I'm going to step into it, right? But it was coming from, it felt like that, but it was actually coming from a place of not feeling worthy.
Why can't it just be about the journey? What if God is learning through that homeless person, through the struggles that person went through? Whether or not that person made an active choice to be on the streets, or the circumstances of their life gave them no choice. What if the journey is all that matters there? Why does it have to be so black and white?
When you feel the call to something, know that it's going to happen in the timing that it's going to happen, in the way that it's going to happen, and with whom it's meant to happen with.
Everything becomes transparent and clear when you become transparent and clear with yourself. Every situation has to become transparent because it's your projection. So you start to go, okay, if I'm triggered, that has nothing to do with the other person. If I'm upset, that has nothing to do with them. And you start to inquire, what am I making their actions, their words mean about me in order to be feeling this way? What meaning am I holding on to?
Switching up these food choices and really staying with the seasons is so important, and it's something that we've lost throughout the generations. Obviously foods are grown outside of their seasonal emphasis. We can get apples year round. We can get all kinds of fruits and vegetables. I'm like, where is this growing? I'm so confused. Right. And, obviously we have to feed everybody something. I understand there's a lot of people in the world, but to really shift with that and to, in the fall, move towards curries or towards hot pot, or every culture has their own way in their own cuisine to shift with the season. So it's kind of fun too to maybe, if you're not super in tune with your culture, maybe research the traditional dishes from your background and maybe get into that and say, oh wow, this is how my lineage would prepare for these seasons. And I think that's really, really powerful.
Whenever people have issues around trusting God, universe, source, and interestingly enough with my clients, I actually get them to test, I trust God and I trust universe, because they'll say I trust the universe, but they don't trust God. But they're one of the same. So if you don't trust God, you're still negating some energy of universal source energy. And that usually is due to like social conditioning around what God means, around that God is going to punish you. One of the big ones is like, there's all this suffering in the world, so why is God not doing anything about it? But like, God's got nothing to do with the suffering in the world. This is our own making of humans trying to learn and grow. And if people are suffering dearly and deeply, on some level, their soul has chosen that to experience something, right? I always give this to my clients and say, the boy who washed up dead during the refugee crisis, it was horrible. He was the poster boy and created the movement for the refugee crisis movement. And if this kid never existed, you know, there'll probably be another soul that incarnated, but that soul chose to experience that, to then create this movement. So rather than us seeing like so much suffering around us, we can be like, wow, so the suffering at the moment is the only way for humans to wake up and start doing something.
As I've been reading like The Law of One, A Course in Miracles, as I've been Googling and researching polarization, and like what it looks like is the easiest concept is the positive, which is the service to others path, and the negative, which is the service to self path. Now, in Christianity, in my background, I understood positive and negative to be like good versus evil, right? Righteousness versus sin. You know, and so it was like these really stark contrasts between good and evil, positive, negative, you know, righteousness, being a sinner. And so for me, it was a real like black and white, you know, difference. And what's interesting is that in spirituality, it kind of takes away the guilt a bit and the shame from being like good, evil, righteousness, sin. Into just positive, negative, service to others, service to self. And so then it kind of takes the shame away and the guilt, and you realize that both polarities are meant to be experienced.
Roses are so beautiful, but God, they're so horrible because there's always thorns. And she goes, and that's such is life. And you always have to see the beauty of life. It comes with thorns. And grandma, there's a whole bunch of spiders. She goes, you don't kill the spiders. The spiders protect the flower. And there's things in life that are going to show up that they might seem negative. They might seem like venom, but they're actually protecting the beauty that's going to come afterwards.
Saturn is an indicator of karma. Saturn likes to make things difficult. Saturn likes to make you learn hard lessons. So if Saturn is in the 7th house of relationships, there's going to be some lessons to learn around relationships. It might feel a little stagnant, but it's wonderful to know that, because if you're having restrictions with relationship or delays with relationship, it's okay to be patient. And it's also really good to get into some type of therapy for yourself and working out any type of trauma or negative experiences you've had to help prepare you for a long-lasting relationship, because Saturn delays things, but it doesn't deny things. So
good to know
that this might be some karma and it's something that you're going to be working through. But then there's also the nodes of Rahu and Ketu, which are the karmic nodes of the moon. Okay, so if Rahu or Ketu are in your 7th house, there's some link to karma there. It's not necessarily bad. It doesn't necessarily mean you're never going to get married. I've known so many people with Rahu, Ketu, and Saturn in the 7th, and they get married and live happy lives. It's just an indicator that there is going to be some karmic lesson there for you to learn.
How do you know when you have lost all your strength until you've lost all your strength? How do you know when you're at the end of your rope, when you've given everything you have and you have nothing left? You don't know your limits until you reach them. And what I'm realizing is I actually haven't reached them. I've just reached further than I thought I had. Does that make sense? I've not actually gotten to the bottom depths of where I thought despair lived, of where I thought loneliness could lead me. But actually, it's never come to that point where I have nothing left. I've always had something left to keep going. I've always had just a little bit of hope that I would hear again, that I would see again, that I would feel again. So I don't know if this is exactly what you need to hear, but if I leave you with anything this year, I'm gonna try not to cry. If I leave you with anything this year, it's to keep going, to keep hope, to keep faith, no matter what. We think we've lost it all. We think that we've gotten to the end point. We think that we have nothing left, that we're literally desolate, alone, have nothing. But I want to encourage you that you're not alone, and there is no end, because what lives in you is spirit. What lives in you is love.
To one storyline for Lucifer, he was one of the 7 archangels sent to watch over this solar system, and each was assigned to a planet. Lucifer had the planet Venus. And then there was an ask was put out by God, who will go to Earth and strengthen humans through temptation and see who is strong enough to rise above temptation. And Lucifer volunteered.
Like in this perfect cadence of like, when I say witch, it's like, rather than like, oh, okay. I mean, I went through that, oh, okay, aspect of things. I grew up Lutheran.
Okay,
and stuff.
You get it.
So
Lutheran would not be okay with that.
No.
For sure.
But luckily I did have an incredible mother. I do have an incredible mother who is she saw that I didn't get it, that I would be at church and stuff. And I'm like, to me, I don't want to be told I have to think one thing. I don't want to be put in a box. Please don't do that. And when I got older, my Sunday church was going hiking, and I'd go out in the woods, and then I'd come home and Mom and I would sit out on the porch with a cup of tea or coffee or something, or just sip in water and talk about it. Like, hey, yeah, this is what I felt on my hike. I stopped and I hugged a tree. I, put my hands in the dirt. I listened to the wind. I watched the clouds. I ran really hard and worked up a hell of a sweat. And she was like, okay, this is what I learned in church. And I'd sit there openly and listen to it. But I remember I used to go to church on holidays and stuff to still, appease the family. But I remember, I think it was early 20s at some point, and I remember being in a church service and like Christmas, and my hands were in fists. And I felt this rage, sacred rage, just building up in me. And it was just that clarity of like, this is supposed to be a place of worship, and I'm feeling rage, which rage is beautiful, utilized correctly. But I don't want to feel that in a place of service, in a place of worship. It's not how I want to feel when I'm asking to receive divine love. And I told Mom afterwards, I said, Mom, I can never go there again. I support, because I believe I've in my Akashic records, I've spoken with God. I've met with Christ energy. I've channeled Mother Mary, but also I'm like, yeah, let's go play with unicorns and mermaids. And, Ganesh is here. Loki, there's like to me, in my awareness and understanding is everyone's there, and I don't want to put myself in a box.
For those of you who are familiar with the term, the dark night of the soul, that was definitely my first one, not my only one, but my first one, where it's like you feel like you're in, I don't even know, like in a tornado, but also in the mud and the quicksand, and you're like, where am I? Which way is up? And there are 2 different ways we can go from that point. We can use our breakdown to break further down, which, no judgment here or there, or we can use our breakdowns to break through and kind of climb the mountain. And that's the route that I took.
Thank you again for listening to the Soulish podcast. It has been such an honor to share my journey as well as to be a part of yours. Thank you. Happy 100.